Today on our show, Varga opens some Christmas presents, Nikki gets on a bus, and a familiar face returns. Mash a potato, you know what you get? You get Fargo, Season 3, Episode 7, The Law of Inevitability. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh, like smooth jazz. Ooh.
Yes, good feelings all around, much like the good feelings I had when this very familiar music kicked in at the end of this episode, something we're going to talk about later, but we finally got our Season 1 connection solidified that we've been looking for.
And Season 2.
And Season 2 as well. We're going to get there, but first, welcome back to AB TV Fargo, your one-stop shop for these three lovable
people.
ape creatures.
People is the word
Talking
you're
about-
looking for.
Sure.
Talking about this wonderful program.
Potatoes. That's what we are.
Yes, I am Lex Michael. I'm all over social media at theLexMichael, and I am here, as always, with...
I'm Dave Child. You can find me at mrdavechild or davechild.com. My name's Dave Child. Ooh, boy, who else do we have?
Oh, wow. My name's Tara Erickson. You can find me on youtube.com/Tara Erickson. Also, Twitter at @TheTara Erickson. Okay.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are joining us live in the chat, hello. We are happy to have you. If you are tuning in after the fact, keep up with the conversation on Twitter. Oh, hey, it's me. I heard myself. It's coming. It's coming around.
That's happened sometimes when we go to the chat. That proves that we're on the chat.
We're on there.
Talking to you.
I went there and I left the sound on like an idiot.
Yeah.
That's all right.
If you are not in the chat and you want to keep up with the conversation after the fact, use the hashtag ABTVFargo on Twitter. You can find our show wherever podcasts are to be found.
Yes.
Go onto iTunes, like us, subscribe us, rate us 5 stars. Let our producers know how you think we're doing. We love you for it. Who doesn't love a nice little pat on the back every so often? And as is well documented, I need those 5 stars to live. So, Episode 7.
Yes, the Law of Inevitability.
Yes, so we are now, I think, moving into... There's only 3 episodes left after this one, this season.
No.
We are now... Yeah, we're now...
That's sad.
We are pivoting into the home stretch, as it were. This episode, I thought, as all episodes of this season have been, I thought was excellent, but it hurt me in the feeling places. Wanted to, as always, right up top, get general thoughts on Episode 7 from the both of you.
I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great. I think the standout performance and also most hated performance is probably Sheriff Mo. It's funny to read. I read so many reviews and kind of like people's comments on this episode on Reddit and stuff, and everyone's just like, I hate him so much. I hate him worse than any of the villains. I hate him worse than Varga. I hate him worse than anyone. It's just funny to see everyone's hate towards this one guy who isn't even the bad guy of the season.
No.
I thought that was kind of great.
I love the downward spiral of Emmett in the restaurant, where I'm like, wow, you're saying way too much, sir.
Yeah.
But also how Sai's wife undresses him as though that's a normal thing. He has a sad face on the whole time, and I just thought that was really, really funny, where I'm like, oh, Sai, he seems like that guy. Where he walks in, she takes off his jacket every day and then puts on his, like, house sweater. I was like, oh my God, poor Sai.
I was not expecting to feel for Sai, though, the way I ended up feeling for Sai in this episode. He has not, so far this season, been presented as all that sympathetic.
Also, the way he breaks, the way it's like, what's wrong, Sai?
God.
The world?
Yeah.
The world is wrong?
It's like, it looks like the world I recognize, but everything is different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like,
Right.
but again, my feelings were just broken into a million little feeling pieces. But before we get there, we open, the first Noel is playing over a little montage of Varga helping himself to the Stussy family Christmas presents.
What a regular scamp he is.
Oh, man.
Just helping himself to some presents.
With a good old knife.
And
He's not even ripping them open. He's
very meticulously just checking, seeing what everybody has. If he likes anything, I'm sure he's going to pocket it. Do we, at any point this episode, see Varga outside of Emmett's house?
No.
Oh, no.
Also, I think it's important to note that I think what happens at the beginning of this episode, unless he rewraps all the presents, which he could have, I think happens after the episode is over. Because later we see them hanging out in front of that Christmas tree and the presents are all wrapped in under the tree.
Sure.
So this is kind of a flash forward, if you will.
Possible, but I also wouldn't wouldn't put it past Varga to meticulously open every gift, check all of them, and then put them back, just because he can.
He can.
Yeah, and maybe he's taken some out or left something in some of the other ones or something like that. He would do that.
Also, every time you guys say his name and I see him on screen, I can't not think of the metal thing in his teeth.
Jabbing
And I'm
in his
like,
teeth.
right now, I'm like moving my lips and mouth weird because I can't. I'm like, oh God, the image, it will never go away.
He's so disgusting.
Oh, I can't. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, or possibly not, depending on when that opening actually does take place, we see Gloria and Winnie and some other police have found Ray's body. They're investigating the scene.
Right.
I continue to feel sorrow for poor dumb Ray. He's got flies on him now. Just no dignity for Ray Stussy even after his past.
Right. There was kind of a sense of suspense in the last episode when Gloria was like, you know what, I'm going to go back to the apartment. And we were seeing Varga and everyone at the apartment, so we were worried that they were all going to kind of collide.
Yeah.
And that didn't end up happening, but it was still a dynamic episode.
Yes.
Because she finds a dead body. She pretty much knows that this is getting worse and worse and worse. So she just wants to present that to the other cops, who just won't listen to her.
Especially Mo, because what a douchery.
Mo.
Especially Mo. And Mo now can accept the narrative that Varga invented offhandedly.
Yeah.
We see the police grab Nikki from the motel, they bring her in, and the very first thing Mo does is very callously puts a picture of Ray's body in front of her. And she, to Nikki's credit, Nikki is able to maintain her composure, but I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead's performance because she's keeping it together.
Yeah.
But inside you can see all of those mental emotional wheels turning very aggressively. You can see the hurt, and you can see her fighting to keep it contained.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also a moment where she picks up the picture, and it looks like she sees something in the picture.
Stopped and rewound and was like, what are you looking at? What was it?
I don't know. Like, the only thing I could see is there's maybe something
Did the
under...
stamp fall out?
No.
When he hit him, that's what I thought. I'm like, is she seeing a reflection from glass and there's a stamp? It fell under the dresser. I mean, I'm pulling this out of my,
maybe there was like a picture of a frame or something.
Yeah.
Or the new frame was there, so she knew that it wasn't like the frame in question.
Right.
I don't know.
But I have wanted to know that. That was a big part.
Yeah.
They blatantly did that, and I'm like,
Agreed.
what is that? And then they never went back to it. I thought they would. But,
Right.
I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it, but
We might still find out.
Yeah.
I hope we find out what she sees.
Yes. So now, as we said, Mo is ready to accept that Nikki killed Ray in retaliation for these beatings.
Yeah,
and that's
pretty easily.
But he's ready. Like every time Mo has a scene, I'm reminded of multiple seasons of The Wire. Every time that like the rest of the department would yell at McNulty for unsolving murders, essentially.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I get where Mo is coming from. It is unfortunately to the detriment of everybody else in this story, but it does make sense if he's trying to do his job. Part of his job is to close these cases as quickly as he can, ideally as efficiently as possible.
Right.
But we need our stats to look good at the end of the year.
yeah.
Yeah, and he's going for the first and most obvious answer every single time. It's his, what do you get when you mash potatoes? You get mashed potatoes,
Yes.
which I just want to mash his face.
What is
Yeah.
that?
I
What
want
does
to
that
mash
even
his
mean?
face potatoes. It just means,
Space potato.
and also like,
It means mashed potatoes.
and sometimes you get different types of mashed potatoes.
Right.
And you can use the potato. Anyways, but yeah, and he's kind of leading the witness in a way that's, or he's maybe not leading the witness is the right term, but he seems to just be like, this is what happened, right? Just say this is what happened. We can move on. and
Right.
go.
Right.
He never wants to really explore.
And did you guys feel like when he was bringing up, he's like, I hear you're a little bruised in the mid area. Probably hurts pretty bad. That I thought he was going to like maybe like beat her. I'm like, I wouldn't put it past Mo to like beat her up a little bit in like where she's hurt. But then also I thought, now he's an idiot and he thinks by just saying that maybe that he knows that she's bruised and he has like some weird power to be like, I know like you're hurt. That might get her to like give up information somehow, which I'm like, that's not gonna work on Nikki Swango.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't go with the like, hey, listen, we know it's tough, we know it's hard. He was still treating someone who was a victim,
Right.
Because the story is that she was beat by Ray,
Right.
and then retaliated against that. So even if you're talking to someone who was beaten to the point of killing a man,
Yeah, you're not gonna
Yeah, you're still talking to them like a hostile witness.
Right.
And that's ridiculous. If you want to get on their side, if you want them to admit, what you want to do is like, hey, we're all friends here.
You want to offer them some pie
what
after
Gloria
the holidays.
did, which was pie. That's
Yeah.
what I was going to say.
Pie.
Pie.
Yep.
Pie. Good old
Bingo.
Gloria. Pie.
And Gloria, we see, is trying to get herself an opportunity to talk with Nikki, and of course is being barred from doing so by Mo, who is just trying to get this business settled as quickly as possible. But Gloria's there, Winnie's there, and they're laying out the fact that there are these 3 murders. They're clearly connected. I'm not surprised because we knew Gloria was a smart cookie, but I'm very impressed at the way she knows exactly what's happening.
Exactly.
She doesn't
yeah.
know maybe why it's happening. She doesn't know where all of these pieces lead necessarily, but she knows exactly what's up.
Yeah.
But of course, to an officer like Mo, it sounds very, you're just creating problems. It's a conspiracy now. We get that line where only an intellectual could come up with something so stupid.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also, which is such a dumb line. But
it made my skin crawl because there are a lot of those people in our reality as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we get a lot of that. But because we're just so intellectual, so that's our problem. And you also have to remember, Gloria is not the subordinate. Mo isn't above Gloria. They're on the same scale. They're both their chief right now.
For 8 more days, including Christmas.
8 more days. So the fact that Mo keeps talking down Gloria and talking down like he's the boss it's not respectful at all. And it keeps talking down. And I feel bad for Winnie because Winnie is actually in over her head. She actually is just a traffic cop. Mm-hmm. She is just in the traffic misdemeanors and got involved in this murder crime. So she really is, for the most part, she really does have to take the yeah, okay, all right, it's not my department, you're my superior, so I'll back off. But Gloria does not have to do that.
Right.
And yet every single time she asks a question, every single time Winnie asks a question, I forget his name, but the sheriff or the chief of that town,
Of St. Cloud.
Of St. Cloud,
Yeah.
thank you. Of St. Cloud turns to Mo to clarify it. So
Yes.
he never seems to even talk directly
Right.
to Gloria. It's always what is she talking about? I don't understand women. It had such a stench of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Yes.
That I just ugh.
And we've
And
seen
he
that.
still knew that she was a chief because she said it blatantly in front of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. For 8 more days, including Christmas.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've seen a streak of administrators in this world in this season being very casually but very grossly misogynist.
Yeah.
Yes.
You.
Yeah,
it's gross.
It's a running thing where it's in every season of Fargo in some way. There's some sense of misogyny and fighting against it, but this is
Yeah.
even stronger in this season.
But the slaying that she does in that office of laying it all out is it totally makes up for all
Yeah.
their idiotic, all of that stuff because
Yeah.
she's just, it's amazing. When she lays it all down, I'm women win always in this episode. I don't care if you're the
Yeah, Wonder Woman out this weekend.
Done. Even though they're jerks to her, I'm no, she's the one that has it all together. In the end,
Yes.
you are so dumb.
Well, and
Right.
she's smart enough to know that in that room, whether or not it is right in any sense, she has to nod and she has to go, okay, because she knows she's got to be a professional. She's got to stay within certain parameters. But as soon as they're out of there, even once they told Winnie, you're bumped back to traffic duty, she goes to Winnie outside that room and says, go talk to the brother.
Yeah.
Go tell him what happened, see what he does.
Yeah, and she also has a point in that room where she says, if we go by your story where it's just an accident here, a coincidence there, and a coincidence there, that makes less sense.
Yes.
It really is weird that 3 different people died purely by coincidence in the span of, what was it, a week?
Right.
It's not even.
And just look at the last names, you idiots.
Yeah. There's a
It's
Stussy here,
come on, dude.
Yeah. Seems clear.
Just she needs a medal right now without even solving any of them and just being yo, did y'all check the last names?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
So Winnie does go catch up with Emmett, but before we jump over to this restaurant scene, where so many things happen, I wanted to hit on this little pocket we get where we catch up with Yuri, who went to the Eden Valley Library / police station to get the Stussy file.
Oh my God, poor Donnie. And just so he Jedi'd Donnie like crazy. it just very much these aren't the files you're looking for. Just like, leave, I'm never here, you're talking to yourself right now. And it's just it made my feelings for Donnie kind of drop a little bit, because I'm like, dude, you're a cop. Stand up for yourself.
Yes, there's a line beyond which you're no longer a lovable idiot.
Right.
You're just an idiot.
You're just an idiot. And he crossed that line.
Mashman, he had Tinder, all right, on the mind, right? He's got ladies on the mind. But like I pointed out, even in the first episode, he had forgotten his gun, right? In the car. Yeah. That's his deal. So, like, I can be like, okay, that's your thing. You do that a lot.
He should not be a cop.
He shouldn't be. But then also, he's got the ladies on the mind. It's double. He's.
You know where?
He's not
what he
focused.
needs to be? He needs to be a manager at Arby's, like, now.
There you go.
Because you know who would love him for that? Gloria.
Yeah.
Probably.
Right?
And you know what was that, too? Because it wasn't Tinder, because this is 2010.
Yes.
Right. Well,
Tinder doesn't exist yet.
It's whatchamacallit.
Was it like OkCupid? Was he just going through his Facebook?
I just saw him go, nope.
He was treated
It's also
like
possible, like,
Tinder.
maybe he's just looking at different, like, he's creeping people on
Different
Facebook.
girls,
and
yeah.
Donnie has had the idea for Tinder before there was a Tinder.
Back
Donnie
in the
creates
day to
Tinder. He goes to Silicon Valley after all of this goes south and just creates Tinder.
And he figures
That's the
out,
origin.
again, he is, like, Donnie Mashman is the Roland Presbalewski of the Fargo universe, in that he was a police officer, found that it wasn't his calling, but his true calling laid down another path. And once he followed that path, his life is made.
Yeah,
Done.
perfect.
He never needs a gun ever again.
I also love that it was on a BlackBerry too, so it's like you just really have to press the buttons.
You
in
really
order
got to get in there.
There's no swiping. It's just like, it's aggressive.
You got to press down hard.
I did think it was interesting, though, that essentially by putting his head in the sand, that's what enabled Donnie to live. I have no hang-ups that Yuri would have killed him. He would have thought about it.
Yeah, because there's also a question of like, okay, he let him get his gun. Mm-hmm. Did he empty out the gun? Like,
I think he would be confident enough to know that, like, Mashman is not going to come after him, and that would make him feel better to say, look, you have your gun. I'm not going to hurt you if you follow what I say.
Is his last name Mashman?
Yeah.
Is that really it?
That's what I call it. Well, that's
when
what I
you
call
mash
it.
a man, what do you get?
A Mashman.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
That's it. Our show's not going to get any better than that.
Nope.
So the other thing that I really liked about the scene was the line that Yuri has where he says, "You think you see me, but your eyes are lying." And I like how consistently we've woven in this theme of storytelling and this idea that your reality can often be dictated by what you decide your reality is, what story you tell yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
So I like that we get another nod to that. We also see his little wolf head that he left outside.
Yeah, I saw some reoccurring animal themes in this episode too. We have the wolf head, which, we've already had the Peter and the Wolf episode, so wolves are already a big part of this. But we also see a lot of bears in this one episode. One episode. I've never noticed as many bears in this whole season as I have in this one episode.
Well, you've got the big stuffed one at Emmett's house.
Yeah.
Right.
And then in the restaurant, you've got that other
is
bear.
surrounded
you're
by
right.
bears.
Yeah.
Every time they went to cut to the restaurant and would see the bears again. Now bears are very Russian. That's a tie into bears in that way. Bears are also kind of an aggressive species.
Right.
So, but besides that, I'm curious about why so many bears.
It's like a metaphor or thing for Varga and Mimo and Yuri.
Yeah,
they're all just bears.
They're all just a bunch of bears. There was once, I do love that one shot that we get. Let's skip a little bit ahead.
Sure.
When we'll go back to the restaurant and everything. But while we're on the topic of bears, when Varga goes and sits down in the lobby with Emmett, and Emmett's on one side where there's a Christmas tree, and it's like this pretty half of the frame. And the other frame, even though it's like a symmetrical frame, in the other side of it is just Varga with no lights and just a bear.
Yeah, and we're fading some of these images back and forth on different sides of the frame.
I've
While
never
Varga
seen
tells Emmett this crooked man nursery rhyme, and Emmett just
Which
breaks.
is just like, and also that's of course your mom told you to be the crooked man. Mm-hmm. You crooked. That's so him.
Yes.
Which is a nice kind of Jabberwock moment too. It reminded me of Mike's Jabberwock poem from season 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, all right, I want to jump back to the restaurant.
Back to the restaurant.
So, Emmett has arrived for this dinner meeting with Cy and the Widow Goldfarb. It's nice to see Mary McDonnell again.
Also, it's just nice that we get to say the Widow Goldfarb again.
Of course.
Because it's great to say the Widow Goldfarb.
It makes me feel that much classier that I have a context in which to throw that out.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Emmett is drinking a little bit. He's starting to go on a bit of a tear about how the problem isn't money. The problem is losers and moochers and hangers-on.
Right.
He also just murdered his brother.
Yes.
You can't forget, he's showing up to this dinner meeting after just murdering his brother. Also, we find out what the meeting/dinner is that he referred to in the previous episode. And we kind of can understand why he was maybe a bit cagey with Varga about that.
Yes.
Because this is how we get out.
Try and get away from Varga. And we're basically throwing him, the Widow Goldfarb, as a distraction. It's like, here, you want the business? You want all this money? Here, yes, she's got it now. Leave us alone.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, that's not going to work.
So it does stand to reason that Emmett would be, let's say, distracted, shaken, in a bit of a fragile state. It does, to me, raise the question, though. Varga's a very smart guy. He knows that Emmett is not cut out for this life. It's very interesting to me that Varga, knowing that, would send Emmett to that meeting anyway, expecting anything but what ultimately happened. So maybe Varga's been
maybe that was his chess piece of like,
exactly.
oh, now blow it with the Widow Goldfarb.
You have no way out.
So Widow Goldfarb isn't an option anymore. So that's probably true.
So Emmett's starting to unravel a little bit at the table. He straight up says, "Yeah, my wife left. It's like your husband passed a year ago. My wife just left. Sex tape. Wasn't really me. I mean, it was really a sex tape, but it was a forgery.
But it wasn't my. Yeah."
And he's just digging and digging.
He also says if it doesn't come back, then you should hunt it down and kill it when they talk about love. And I'm like, and that was the first moment where then after that came out, the Goldfarb was like, uh-huh. Yes. And then
so
he just
blood
lost.
On your shirt?
Yeah, he lost his mind.
This must be wine from lunch.
Yep.
Wine from lunch. That's not a good excuse. No, it's just from all the sloppy drinking I was doing in midday.
I think you could argue that Winnie showing up saves him from digging a deeper hole at that table.
Yeah.
I don't think
But of course, he gets up and immediately digs a hole triple that size. He starts blurting out an alibi before she said a single thing.
I've been here since 6.
Right. Before she even tells him that Ray is dead. And then once she tells him that Ray is dead, before she can use the words foul play, he starts to say, well, it was probably that girlfriend. Right? Like,
oh, man, dude.
Just all of the things you should never do if you don't want people to know that you're guilty.
Right.
Someone never even took, someone wasn't even in Anything Goes in high school.
No.
He's never taken an acting class in his life.
No, someone's never watched any, not even an episode of Law and Order,
No,
I think, has
know.
Emmett seen.
Oh my God, no.
No, he's just like, I should tell you exactly the information you want to hear right away.
Been here the whole night. Been here since 6. Since 6. I've been here since 6. It's that girl. You should arrest her. Throw her up. She's a bad one, I told.
And the two of them get out of there. It's like Cy very wisely ushers Emmett out of there.
I also like how Cy knows right away that Emmett definitely killed Ray. It wasn't hidden from us, and it wasn't hidden from Cy. Because you do have that, if you don't have to tell me where you were. You don't have to, and it's just, and I also love this moment right afterwards where Emmett confronts Cy and just repeats everything Varga's just been siphoning into his ear.
Right.
Like right back at Cy, and Cy just comes up with it was a very similar scene to actually Gloria.
I was gonna say we get 2 of those this episode where somebody is spinning a narrative to throw at somebody else that, if you think about it for a second, makes so much less sense than this supposedly outlandish version of the story that we've been tracking.
Yeah.
Like, I love that Cy's logic is like, why would I partner up with Ray? What would be my end game? To turn millions into thousands? That doesn't make any sense at all. Also, before we move too far away from it, the very tail end of that restaurant scene, once Cy gets Emmett out of there, is Winnie approaching the Widow Goldfarb at the table, presumably to ask her a few questions as well.
Yes.
Right.
And I was like, good job, Winnie.
Yeah. So now, what information does the Widow Goldfarb know that now Winnie might learn from that? Is one, that they're trying to sell off the business entirely. That's one big one. And also, we'll kind of be able to fact check when exactly Emmett showed up.
Right.
And just the general craziness that Emmett has, and also the spot on his
That
shirt.
there was blood on
Yeah.
his shirt.
He's a sloppy wine drinker.
Yeah.
Yes. All of that is set up.
But this scene, even though it doesn't descend into a full-blown screaming match between Emmett and Cy, and it seems like they walk away without, certainly without screaming, without coming to blows, without it escalating further, it does seem like Cy now sees very clearly that this relationship is fractured probably beyond the point of repair. And I think that's
I feel like he still wants Emmett to trust him. He still wants to help Emmett out.
I think that's true, but I think he finally now sees the futility of his position. I think that's why the next scene we see Cy in is him coming home broken.
Yeah.
We see his wife comforting him. And her reaction, like, I agree the like her helping him like undress and giving him his little like house coat and all that.
Yeah.
That's probably something that happens almost, if not every night.
Right.
But him breaking down like that seems to be
never.
very shocking even to her. She's like,
Yeah.
hon, what's wrong? She seems genuinely surprised and genuinely
definitely.
concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also had another F.U. Varga moment when she showed up, because I was like, she's not fat. What are you talking about, Varga?
Right.
Because Varga had that whole "you are like" speech.
Yes.
And it's like, she is fine. She looks fine.
She does.
Midwestern and fine.
Never would the first thought I have be fat person.
That's a fat wife right there. Boom, 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 boom. No, Varga. No.
Bad man.
But that moment, seeing Cy not just really emotionally vulnerable in a way that we haven't seen before, but at the lowest of low emotional points for him. I
Yeah.
actually, for the first time, really felt for this guy.
Me too.
Because Cy is a jerk. He is not, in a traditional sense, especially
Right.
in fiction, a quote-unquote good person.
Right.
But he is human. And I appreciate that this show gave us an opportunity to see even a character like Cy as human and fallible.
Right.
Well, his whole life has been, Stussy and that whole deal. And it's like, if you lose that, it's like losing your partner in life, which is why his whole entire world is just falling apart around him, which is sad. But I'm like, dude, the traffic thing is what really, I'm like, dude, if you weren't such an idiot with your dumb Hummer and that traffic thing, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he is, he messed shit up.
Right. And if Fargo wasn't around, Cy maybe would be able to fix it. But it's just...
You can't. Like, Cy is not a match for this guy.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Also, he probably wouldn't have been able to fix it anyways. He would just be... The best move he has is to point and then drive away.
Yes.
Right.
So, meanwhile, at the station in St. Cloud, Gloria is still trying to get an opportunity to speak with Nikki, but is being given a grand old bureaucratic runaround, having to get one form and then another form, then another form.
Right. The blue form, and then, it's not the blue form. It's like talking to these two guys in this tiny room that they don't even fit into.
You can't open the door all the way.
That's a very bureaucratic room.
So she's basically told, like, you've got to go back to your superior, your quote-unquote superior officer, and then we'll give you another form once you've got that signature, and then we can give you the blue form.
Yeah.
So Gloria, understandably very, very frustrated, fed up, stressed out, just goes, sits in a bathroom stall, takes a breather for a second, like unbuttons her top button, get a little more air. Okay, what do I do? And meanwhile, Nikki is sitting in her cell, and an officer, or rather somebody dressed like an officer whose face is obscured at first,
Suspicious.
tells her, put your arms up so we can cuff you to the bars so we can do a search, essentially.
Yeah, that was when that first happened. I was like, this guy isn't legit.
Well, as soon as we didn't see this officer's face, I'm going, why?
As soon as there's one officer,
Right.
who's like, I gotta tie you up so I can look in the room, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, also, she saw the light on the camera go off, as well as we all did as well. The
Right.
very before he even comes in, the light goes off from red, which I'm like, that's weird, stop recording. Second he comes
Right.
in, it's like weird business. It's like, okay, something's going down.
Also, how did I weirdly know it was DJ Qualls?
Did you
Did you
recognize
really?
his
I
voice?
really recognized DJ Qualls' voice.
Oh my gosh.
To the point where I was like, this isn't a DJ Qualls, is it? That's a weird choice.
was.
Yes,
But it
they
was.
did, and then surprise.
I thought it was a great choice.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but I knew
But it's just like out of the blue.
out of nowhere, a little
Out
bit.
of nowhere, this kind
Yeah.
of recognizable character actor who was big, like, 10 years ago.
But I love, like, he first, like, it was the new guy, and then I think he was in Road Trip, right? And then I feel like he didn't necessarily go away, but he wasn't in these movies that were getting big releases, and then suddenly he pops up again a handful of years later, doing these really fantastic one-off spots on some of the best shows on TV.
On television,
He's settling into, like, being a great character actor. He was like becoming a big comedy actor, and now he's just like a character actor, and he's perfect in it. So it's great to see him in this.
Yes, and so he's got Nikki handcuffed, and he produces a syringe full of some unknown substance. And I had this moment of like, oh, my heart can't take this. If we're really going here, I can't handle it. So Gloria saved me too, because I would have been having a real rough day right about now.
Yeah.
Gloria busts in, super cop, gun drawn, is ready to like drop the syringe, and then DJ Qualls busts like a ninja move.
Yeah.
On her.
Yeah, dude.
Just kicks the gun away and is able to flee the scene before other officers arrive.
Hashtag Qualls be kicking.
Qualls be kicking. But so we don't know exactly who he is. Presumably he's there at Varga's behest somehow.
Yeah, working for Varga.
Right.
It kind of did reveal, Varga has more people than 2 people.
Yes.
Because we have been seeing these 2 lieutenants, Yuri and Nemo, kind of popping up, but this is the first time we see someone in the wider range of more people.
Yes, and this dude is clearly well trained. He can get in undetected, and he even once he's caught,
get out.
he's able to get out of there. He's able to disarm a police officer who's got their gun on him and get out without being apprehended. Who is this person?
It takes some training, Russian training.
Varga's got a ninja army, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Discreet army of ninja.
Geeky-looking
DJ. That's DJ stands for discreet jujitsu.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna die on that hill. So
perfect. Well, and then you have Mo coming in.
Yes.
Dumb Sheriff Mo. The first thing he sees because the gun goes off, so the cops freak out and they disarm Gloria, who has the gun. And the first thing Mo sees is like, Nikki, did you have the syringe? How could she possibly have brought that syringe in? They do search her, right? They don't just go like, well, we'll just put you in there. Hopefully no syringes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that when you are arrested, you have to surrender the property that's on
you. It's
you.
like a giant comical-sized syringe, too. It's
But so they look at the security footage because Gloria's like, look at the tape. There must be something on the tape. But of course, we know that Varga is, if nothing else, a manipulator of technology.
Yeah. Something
is wrong with the footage. Something is so clearly wrong with the footage that finally even Mo has to go, well,
fine. No, not at first.
Not at first. He goes, oh, you get glitches.
You get glitches. You just don't have... I wanted to be Mo was like, it's probably a poltergeist.
Yeah.
Probably you got some ghosts. It probably has nothing to do with it.
Some ghosts. You
just
get
a
ghosts,
passing ghost
potatoes.
came by, or just... You got spooky spuds, is what I say. What do you got when you murder some potatoes? You get coming back as ghosts.
You get murdery
spuds.
potatoes.
Murdery potatoes.
Indeed, but what we do finally settle on, something must have been done to this footage. It could be a hack by an outside party. What's happening in the chat right now?
Sorry, Corey Silva just called out that the restaurant, this is totally to do with what we were talking about bears earlier.
Yes.
But the restaurant was called the Bear's Den. So that's an interesting note. That's why there were so many bears, but also... I don't know where they're going with this bear thing, but that's something that's there. I'm sorry. Go back.
No, well, I'm genuinely curious. If you see any more bear-shaped Easter eggs in any of these episodes, guys, please let us know, because I want to start putting these pieces together. We do, though, finally settle on this footage was tampered with. Could be an outside. They use the term hack. Could be an outside party tampering with the footage, and eventually even Mo has to go like, all right, fine.
Right.
Potatoes.
Potatoes,
etc.
Potatoes. Well, even in the when they start talking to Nikki in the cell, he was still like, I'm still going with my initial theory of this. I'm not saying this, but let's hear you out. Let's keep going. But I'm still saying it was my balloon and potato theories. All my analogies are mashing together to be one balloon filled of mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Yes, and Gloria does eventually finally get an opportunity to speak very briefly with Nikki. All Nikki will say is follow the money.
Right.
And we know that Nikki, for all of the illicit activities she may have been involved with over the years, she's a pretty smart cookie as well. We saw how quickly she pieced together what was happening in that one very short surveillance trip she took with Ray.
Yeah. And at first I was like, why aren't you just telling them the whole story? But then I realized it would put her, she'll be confessing to a lot of stuff.
A lot. Well, she'd be confessing to a murder, if nothing else.
Murder, blackmail, like kind of a ton of stuff that's probably pretty illegal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why she kind of kept it vague and followed the money.
Yes, and Mo says, well, we're going to take you to the state pen, and he says protective custody, and he, like, throws it at her a little bit in a way. It's like, dude,
You're
just
welcome.
stop. It's like, you win, basically. Calm down. But
also, she was in protective custody, and that didn't stop DJ Qualls.
yeah, I'm thinking to myself, too, it's like, if she actually makes it all the way to prison, why does anyone think that she's going to be safer? We already had one person dressed in a police officer's uniform try and kill her. Why is she going to be safer in prison?
Right. I mean, it was hard for Gloria to get in that room. Like, that guy had to do some stuff, which means he can do stuff anywhere.
Well, the only thing that kept her out of that room, I think, was her uniform. I think, honestly, like... And maybe the fact that she was a woman, too. But, like, putting a guy in the right uniform probably was just able to walk past the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah.
So
we go, to the bus.
Well, before we get to the bus, we do get that wonderful moment between Gloria and Nikki, where the two of them seem to actually ever so briefly connect, where Gloria says, after the holidays, I'll come visit you. I'll bring you pie. What kind of pie do you like? And we can talk about Ray. And it's not about we can talk about what you're accused of. We can talk about these crimes. We can talk about Ray's death. It's we can talk about him, who he was, what he was like. And I look this
Which is what a detective should do.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not only a great tactic, but it's a really human moment. And I think for me, this episode answered the question of whether or not Nikki genuinely cared for Ray. I think it's clear that she did. Whatever her personal goals were, whatever she was hoping to get out of that relationship, she does seem really emotionally affected by the fact that he's gone.
And the fact that she says, you don't cut him open, he doesn't deserve that. Like, showing affection for the body and just trying to...
Yeah, because it's already done with now.
Yeah.
There's nothing she can do to change it. So it's like, she still is holding on a little bit.
She doesn't have to act like, she doesn't have to sell the illusion that she cares for him to try and convince them that she's innocent.
Right.
That's not required. Right. So the fact that she's doing that for no reason other than she doesn't want to see that happen to him.
Yeah, and granted, I think she treated him kind of like a puppy.
Oh, for sure.
Still, it was, it still felt kind of like the genuine way you love your puppy.
Exactly.
Is the way that she loved.
Especially if she goes along with the story of, like, that Ray was beating her up. Yeah. She's probably not going to ask to bury the body or not cut him up.
Exactly. Right. So, Nikki is loaded onto a bus for prisoner transport with a P. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we're tracking her walk onto the bus,
you knew she was going to be seated next to someone we recognized.
It's like, what's going to happen here? Is there going to be as there turned out to be a familiar face on this bus, or is one of these people going to be there to kill her? What is happening? Why are we building? She sits down, and before anything else happens, I'm going, there's a shoulder in this shot. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to frame somebody else's shoulder into the shot where she is sitting down.
It's a good old dirty shot.
Unless we're going to...
Good old dirty shot.
And then, of course, as the bus leaves and Gloria in her cruiser splits off from it, we get the unmistakable sounds of those jaunty drums from season 1. And already I'm starting to like bob up and down. It's like a Pavlovian thing that's happening to me while I'm watching the show.
I kind of was like, that sounds familiar, but I forget where I heard that from. Mm-hmm. Is it going to get into a song I recognize?
And we get this pan from Nikki over to her seatmate, and it is Mr. Wrench.
Mr. Wrench.
The mute, deaf... There we go, there it is.
The deaf hitman.
The deaf hitman from season 1, who is partnered with Mr. Numbers.
Yeah. If you want to listen to the song, by the way, just Google Wrench and Numbers and Fargo, and this was made by Joe Russo, I think, is the composer of Fargo, and he composed this track just for Wrench and Numbers.
Yes.
So this is their theme.
Which is interesting because in my head, I know there is a Fargo theme, but I think of this as the Fargo theme just as often. because of
because
how
it's
heavily it
also-
was used in season 1.
It's also much more uplifting
That's
than it
true.
is with, than the actual Fargo
Far
thing,
less
which is
somber.
So this is good.
But it was really cool to see Russell Harvard back as Mr. Wrench, and we finally got a direct connection to other parts of the Fargo mythology, which we had been, I think, waiting for all season.
And I think Wrench is officially the the character who's been in all 3 seasons.
Yes.
All 3 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the first season, he comes in with Mr. Numbers, and in the second season, you see him as a kid.
Yes.
Playing baseball with Numbers as kids, and then Hansi goes and presumably kidnaps him to start like a crime ring.
Hansi does a lot of stuff in those intervening decades. Hansi also becomes white between the events of season 2 and the events of season 1.
Yeah, he becomes Tripola. He becomes Tripoli in which is from season 1, who gets killed by Malvo, and that's also the Fargo Mafia Syndicate, which means that Wrench has connections to the Fargo Mafia Syndicate.
Yes.
Right, which was kind of destroyed by Malvo, but is probably still active and has some connection. So doing something to Wrench might start that family into investigating whatever's going on currently happening. Moses
Nikki.
Tripoli.
Yeah.
Yes. So what we see happen in this last sequence of the episode is something steps out. It's a little obscured, whatever it is, steps out onto the road and causes this bus to crash, to completely flip.
Well, it's Yuri steps out.
Yes, it is Yuri, as we see as he walks toward the bus, but
Yeah.
we see like, what is that? That looks like a dog head on a man's bus. I know what's happening. Oh, the bus is upside down now. Boo, bus being upside down.
But it looked cool.
It looked really cool.
Looked
really
That was
rad.
a gorgeous
Also,
bus crash.
how did that guy's arm not come flying? I wanted in slow mo, because they're chained to the top of the bar, that when they'd roll over, that his arm would disconnect from his body.
I kind of wanted them to start spinning like a
just-
Cirque du Soleil.
Oh
like,
God!
moment,
Do
like-
just like a slow mo freeze frame. Yeah.
Slow-mo, like,
Okay.
Yeah, there are definitely going to be.
I wanted his body to come off of his arm.
There's going to be
Cool.
more than one.
That's weird. That's
prisoner
so
on that
weird.
bus with either a severe fracture or possibly no arm.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So
And yet it looks like Nikki just took a nap.
Exactly. I'm like, what is her hand? She just she looks
just
so
took-
peaceful.
I think it was. I mean, it looked really cool, but I also was thinking about actually shooting that, where they had to take something, turn it on its head.
Right.
Those are probably all stunt people hanging from the actual thing, so
Yeah,
they
yeah.
can do it. And so they just had to put.
They're like, you just lay here after all the.
Yeah, she's
done.
just like, just lay,
Yeah,
just
lay
keep doing
there.
this,
You
so you
just
won't
lay
get
down.
hurt, and we could do this cool shot. Yeah.
And so the last thing we see happen in this episode, after this, again, gorgeous-looking bus crash, is Yuri and Mimo. And am I crazy? It looked like there was a third person.
No, there was.
Yes, there
Yes.
was. Was it DJ Qualls?
Might be DJ Qualls.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're adding a third member
I
to the
noticed that
band
too,
now.
because you saw two coming out from the woods behind.
Yeah.
And it looked like
behind Yuri.
everybody was wearing animal heads.
Animal
Yes.
heads. So not all the same animal heads. Yuri had the wolf. Looked like there was a pig
Maybe.
in there, and I couldn't tell with the other ones because they were out of focus.
Right.
But yeah, and then they started cutting open
Yes,
the actual
they
gate.
descend on the bus, and Yuri begins to cut open that gate, presumably to get to Nikki, while Nikki lays there unconscious.
Very
Who
pretty
knows?
like.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen.
And also, we don't know where Wrench is.
No.
Because
No,
in
they
that,
didn't cut back to him.
yeah, and she's kind of laying all, like, taking a nap in front
Right.
of where Wrench would be sitting or laying himself. So that's gonna, what could end up happening is Yuri could fight Wrench. Wrench could, that something could happen there
Right.
where that they're building up. I don't think this is the
Mafia
last
meets
where,
Vargas.
No, here's what I think. I want to hear you guys predict the outcome of this scenario.
God.
See what I did?
Oh, you said the magic word. Predict.
I don't know.
So what does happen? Because my first thought is there's no way we bring Mr. Wrench back into the fold to immediately kill him in a bus crash.
Right.
Right. No. There's no way he's dead.
Well, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, I'll go. A couple of things that we see in next week's on episode, on the teaser for next week, that I actually looked up this time, one of the things is Emmett is getting haunted by the ghost of his stamp. He goes to his office and his stamp is in every frame of his office, and he looks around and it's all over the place, and he starts freaking out and asking his secretary what's happening. Now, why would Varga need to do that? I feel like he doesn't. But who might want to do it is someone who's trying to get into his head and say, we're coming for you. And that could be the other mob. That could be the Fargo family.
That could.
So if Wrench gets tied up with Nikki or they kind of go after Varga, that could maybe be what's going on.
But we also still, I feel like we don't know at all what Varga's actual end game is.
Right, like, why do they need to go get Nikki right now? I mean, I get before she spills the beans, but, like, is she really going to spill the beans? And she's going to a penitentiary. Like, you didn't need to do that whole bus thing. I felt like it was like a really dramatic thing just to maybe stop her from saying a few words.
And what do you need Emmett Stussy for in the first place? If you're Varga and you, by your own admission, have somehow amassed so much wealth that it makes sense that you've adopted this philosophy of, I'm going to stay invisible. I'm so wealthy, it's smarter for me to not be seen. What do you need Emmett Stussy for?
Also, remember, this is the same... Well, they need him for money laundering.
Right, but I feel like you could mark...
But now he's becoming super suspicious.
Right,
so.
and you could mark somebody else if all you want is a money laundering operation.
Yeah.
That's true, but now he's in it, so I feel like he's going to keep going through with it or figure out a way out. And also, she's still a loose end, and you got to remember this is still the same guy who threw someone off of a parking structure.
Right, because of a loose end.
Him.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah.
I feel like they wanted to do the syringe and probably make it look like she had a heart attack or a drug overdose or something.
But everything...
So it'd be easy.
Right, yeah.
But now it's not so easy, so they're trying to get...
They have to go.
Yeah. And who's to say Wrench isn't in on this, too? Wrench could be, like, a part of the gang.
Sure.
Yeah.
We don't really know what Wrench is up to after his former employee... Because the former Hansi, Moses
Tripoli,
yes.
He was killed, right, by Malvo?
Yes.
So he's kind of up, and Numbers is gone, too.
Yes.
By Malvo. So he's a little up in the air of, like, what is his employment like right now?
Yeah.
So they could be coming for him, or they could be, he could be involved with the same group of people too.
That would be a really interesting hard left if they're not even there for Nikki. They're just there to bust out Mr. Wrench.
Yeah, or I could see it as Wrench ends up defending Nikki somehow. It's not that Wrench is like the nicest guy.
No, but he also never seemed evil the way somebody like Varga does.
He seemed like he was a professional and
Yes.
not like a malevolent force or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So he could end up defending Nikki and him end up having a fugitive situation where they kind of hit the road after kind of beating up Yuri and his crew a little bit, and then they're kind of together. But who knows? We only have 3 more episodes too, so
I feel like also if Mr. Wrench, he needs some mob money, he might just be like, I'll stand up for Nikki, but then be like, let me just join Varga's team. You have billions of dollars? I'm sorry.
Right.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he's just a mobster.
And 2, I go back to thinking about, because I don't watch the next week on Fargo's, so I didn't
Me
know
neither.
about this business with the stamp coming back and haunting him. Maybe it's Varga, maybe it's not, but once it becomes clear to Varga that Emmett is unreliable as a co-conspirator, and it speaks to Varga's fascination with stories, with differing versions of reality. This dude's clearly already beginning to unravel. If your whole goal is to stay invisible, if this guy's gonna spill, you drive him as crazy as you possibly can, so that even if he tells everyone everything, it just seems like a story being spun by a crazy person.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, that's how he's able to survive so far with. That's why Mo won't believe this, because it just sounds so crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One person in the chat, Carlos Perez in the chat, says Varga is the devil and needs Emmett's soul. That would be a very, very left turn, but who knows? I guess we haven't had our frogs flying from the sky or UFO moment.
It's a good point.
Unless that moment is actually the fact that technology can't recognize.
I think he just needs his parking garages.
He just wants to park his
mobile
homes.
It's gonna be ghost potatoes, you guys. We
Ghost
already
potatoes.
called this. In 2
We
weeks, we're
already
all gonna
went
feel
through
super
this.
smart.
Yeah.
About the ghost potatoes.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we hit pretty much everything I think that there is
think so.
to hit. Are there final thoughts from either one of you guys about this episode? Final thoughts from our friends in the chat? Anything else that we left unturned?
One thing in prediction-wise, I do think we are going to find out when Nikki sees in the picture.
Yes.
And maybe she's going to use that to go against, to fight against Varga and Emmett. So if she ends up being involved in this other mob boss, being involved with the police, anything where maybe she can actually get to him through whatever she sees in the picture. Because that can't be.
We lingered so intently on it, it would be very surprising if we never come back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. I don't think there's anything else I had written down.
Yeah, we do have a question in the chat. I think we've brought this up before, but IC Spots asked, "Does the myth of Sisyphus apply in this season?" From the stamp, I mean, and I think yes.
I think you could
Yes,
argue
it
it's
does.
applying to almost every character we've been following.
I think that's what the most of the theme of Fargo is people trying to get their job done and make their dreams happen, but always feeling like it keeps coming back at them. So,
Which
keep
for
pushing the
Mashmen,
boulder.
it's just finding a lady on Tinder.
It's
Mashmen.
inventing Tinder first.
And maybe, hopefully, remembering his gun.
We've actually
Mashmen needs a
secretly
match.
we've been watching the Tinder origin story. It's like the social network for Tinder the entire time, secretly in the background.
So weird.
Anyway, I think that is going to wrap it up for us this week on ABTV Fargo. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. There are only 3 episodes left. I don't know what's going to happen. Until we reconvene, my friends, where can the good people find you on the internet?
You can find me at MrDaveChild on the Twitter or the internets and DaveChild.com.
And you guys can find me at youtube.com/Tara Erickson, Twitter at theTara Erickson.
And I am all over social
job,
media.
You're welcome.
The Lex Michael. Thank you guys again for joining us. Please keep up with us on Twitter. Hit us up. We love you. We love talking to you about the show. We love so many things. So much love. Mwah. We will see you next week for more Fargo. Mwah.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Ghost potatoes.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.